Coast to Coast AM archive, you're listening to the Best of Art Bell. This program was originally broadcast October 30th, 1993. Art will be live tomorrow night for his annual Ghost to Ghost AM show.
If you're just tuning in, we are exploring areas that some would say we ought not. Ghosts, the paranormal, things that people have seen and heard. If you'd like to be part of it, pick up the telephone and join in. You're back on the air, sir.
Hi, thank you, Art. As I was saying, this house out in Marinwood, after all this activity started taking place in the house, now they haven't had any sightings. You don't have to see something to be haunted. A lot of poltergeist activity, they don't see things. Mm-hmm. But electrical sockets burning out, doors getting slammed. Her father came out to the house. He is in construction, a contractor. Did some work on the sockets, and toasters would plug in, and then they'd burn out. One day, a woman friend of hers came over to pay her a visit. Comes into the house, has a small 3 or 4-year-old child. The child says he sees a lady in the hallway. Oh. A little while later, he's playing in the hallway. Door slams shut. The woman, the mother of the child, and the woman who owns the house, it takes him 20 minutes to get the door unstuck, at which point the mother becomes hysterical. The little kid is scared because the lady he had felt or thought he had seen the lady there. They finally did get the door unstuck. There was no reason for the door being stuck. Mother and child left the house, haven't been back since. Theory. You were talking about how a lot of these people get separated from their bodies. The Indians and a lot of people believe that people who are addicted to drugs or drink alcohol get separated from their spirit.
I've heard that.
Now, if somebody gets separated from their spirit because of drug abuse or they weren't ready to leave because they've died a violent death, then I think if there's that separation of body and spirit like that, or the Indians say drugs and alcohol will punch holes in your spirit. If you beat your spirit up or yourself up, you may wind up being grounded here.
Well, that would seem to happen, wouldn't it? Story after story after story.
And like I say, they looked into it, and they had found out that, yes, a woman had died there years earlier, and then later on they looked into it and discovered that, the cause of death was a heroin overdose. And this is one very angry spirit. Some people get in that house, and they're fine. Some people go in there, and they aren't fine.
Well, if it does punch holes in the spirit, that's a big hole.
Yeah, they tried to get my girlfriend to babysit out there, house sit rather, and when she found out about the house, she didn't want to go. And so there's some sensible information for your listeners, too.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it, sir, and I appreciate the call. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Right, bye. You ask yourself that question, would you go into a haunted house if you knew it was haunted, if the story was that it was haunted? And there were spirits lingering there, would you go in? Top of the morning, you're on the air, Coast to Coast AM with Art Bell. Where are you calling from, please?
Hi, Art. Salt Lake City.
Salt Lake City, yes.
Listen, sir, I'd like to interject a note of caution from the cultural mecca of all that is the United States.
Right.
First of all, if also before I can, with the death of Vincent Price, I want to say you made it into my top 4 American heroes, sir.
Oh, well, thank you.
All right. Anyway, listen, I had an experience with a Ouija board, and just to note that biblically, I don't know how you feel about Christianity, but the scriptures do tell us that ghosts, the spirits of the dead do not come back to haunt the living. In fact, they're demons taking manifestations in order to fool the relatives of those that have already passed on. So
how then, if that's the case, do you account for some of the stories like we've heard this morning, the lady with the car and no brakes, spirits that seem to be those of departed loved ones that are here to help?
Well, a lot of times, you don't have the full stories. A lot of these spirits may be, intending to appear as benevolent, when in fact the intentions may be very malign. That's not what I wanted to talk about. I want to give you my own experience very quickly.
Sure.
What I was doing is I was playing with a Ouija board alone, long time ago.
Bad idea.
And I began having an argument with the planchette. Well, I thought, this is nonsense. This is my own energy, and there's nothing in this. And at one point, every time that I would push the planchette to the S, the phone would ring. And so I asked the board if it were in fact ringing the phone, and it moves to the yes position. Well, I ran across the room to answer the phone. The phone kept ringing, and there was it was a crackling line. It sounded, the voice was distant, miles away, ancient voice, and it says, "You shall," and I didn't have the guts to listen to it. I hung the phone up. And for the next 7 years, this phenomena have been happening in my life. For example, I'll pass by cars.
Haven't you forevermore, if I can stop you, wondered, you shall what?
I don't know.
How could you hang up?
I really did not want to know. I didn't want to hear what it was going to say.
Okay.
But it is a warning. Don't I've had an aversion to the paraphernalia of the occult ever since. And I think, there is...
I have a lot of respect for Ouija boards. I've had an experience with one myself, and I won't even talk about it.
Well, as I said, it may answer your question of whether or not you would spin around and see what it was there that was manifesting itself, or go into a haunted house. I've done it since the experience, but in every case I've rooted.
I appreciate your call, sir.
Certainly. Have a good morning.
All right, that's Salt Lake City with a caution, and a well-given caution it was, too, I might add. Well-given caution. You be careful. There are lots of things out there that we don't understand. And I think the possibility exists that a Ouija board is just inviting trouble. Line 3, you're on the air.
Hi, Art. How you doing?
Fine, sir. Welcome to the program.
Real good show tonight.
Thank you.
Say, I have a question. That caller that called last hour about the glowing gravestone?
Yes.
There's a phenomenon called St. Elmo's fire.
Yes. Mm-hmm. But St. Elmo's fire tends not to return predictably to the same place again and again.
Yeah. During a...
Not saying it wasn't. I'm just saying that on many occasions the caller said he saw this glowing gravestone and that it would be St. Elmo's fire that many times is not probable.
That's true, but that'd be something you really would want to see once, and I think that'd be about it.
That'd do me.
Yeah. Well, take it easy.
All right. Thank you. Just wanted to suggest that possibility, I guess. Hi, on the first-time caller line, you're on the air.
Yeah. Hi.
Where are you, sir?
I'm in Alaska.
Alaska. All right.
I was in the United States Marine Corps, and I was a sniper. And I went to Grenada, and I got hit in the knee with a bullet. And from pictures in the family, it was my great-great-grandfather in a Civil War uniform that sat down and froze my leg. And the Grenada is a jungle, and he said, "Everything will be okay, boy. Everything will be okay." And this first time I've talked about it, other than to the military psychologist. And
all right, if you don't mind, I want to be sure I understand. You were part of the invasion force. You were a sniper. You were in Grenada.
Yeah, my job was to make sure none of the Cubans got into the students at the university.
And so you were stationed there, and you were just going to take them out if you had to.
Yes. And an anti-sniper got me. My A-gunner ended up getting him.
Hit you in the leg?
Yeah, in the knee.
Oh, God.
Well, it went from the knee, at the end of my military career, went from the knee up around the pelvis bone and out the other ankle. The bullet traveled all.
What a horrible injury.
Yeah, it hurt. Very much so.
And so you were laying there?
Yeah, I instantly fell. There was nothing I could do. And like I say, through pictures of the family photo album, it was I think it'd be he was in the Civil War, and it'd be 3 great-grandfathers sat down and froze my leg. My leg was frozen, not cauterized. It was frozen.
Frozen.
The whole wound, which is something nobody's been able to explain. And he said, "Everything will be okay now, boy. Everything will be okay."
And left?
Yeah.
That's eerie. What did the medics say?
Medics, they were just asking me what we'd done, how we'd done this, where did we get ice. Nobody could understand. The psychologist told me that it was, in the lust of battle, and that I'd lost a lot of blood, and that I wasn't sure what was happening. But my spotter, who was also a sniper, he felt something cold as he was taking the other man out, and he has shot before. It wasn't, it's not the coldness you feel when you take a man out.
I understand.
It was completely different, and, I was scared, but at the same time, there was this great feeling of security and just the joy of knowing that I had a family member there, because I really thought that the pain that I was feeling, I knew where the bullet went out. I didn't know what the damages were.
That's the most incredible story I've ever heard, and I really appreciate your call, sir. Thank you. Wow. For that one, I'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. Good morning. You're on the air. Coast would have been. You were a dial tone. Spirit of a dial tone. Wildcard line 3, you're on the air.
Hello, Art.
Hello.
Yes, this is Mark from Anderson, California.
Hi, Mark.
Yeah, I had a situation that happened a couple of years ago. I was sitting at a friend's house, and it was about 1 o'clock in the morning. And we were sitting there talking about, people that we've known throughout our lives. And I was sitting in a chair, and all of a sudden, I bent over in extreme pain. I mean, it took me to the floor, out of the chair onto the floor on my right side. And then I kind of got a headache, and we were just, for some reason, my friend Craig and I both noted the time.
Right.
The thing that was strange was the next day, my friend was looking through the paper and noticed that a friend of mine had been killed. I used to work at a convenience store, and she used to come in, and her parents didn't really listen to her, and I was kind of like her mentor. I was her sounding board, whenever she had problems.
Mm-hmm.
And he told me that this young lady named Kelly had died. And I knew the area where she had been hit by a car. I knew that much. And I went out into the area, and I was just kind of walking around. By feel, I found the area where she was hit, just through whatever I have in myself that told me this is it.
You just knew it.
I just knew it. And we were kind of kicking around, and we saw one of the sheriff's deputies' car go up there, and I went and flagged him down and asked him if he had been working the night she got killed.
Mm-hmm.
And he said yes, and I told him that she was a friend of mine, and I said to him, I know this is going to sound morbid, but what side of her body did the truck impact her on? He told me that the initial strike hit her on the right side, fracturing her pelvis. She flipped up over the truck and landed on her head and was killed immediately. Now, this was within 5 minutes. This was the night before that I fell over. This was in 5 minutes of that time that the time of death was pronounced. And my belief is that she came to me and said goodbye. And it was just too weird. And a friend of mine, if you'd like, he was there. I told him if he would like, he could call back and verify, because he was there, and he was kind of freaked out. As the couple days where we talked to the sheriff's deputy and stuff,
I'm just convinced it happens. People come back. People do come back, and they do say goodbye.
My friend and I are researching a book on. We're going to be writing a book basically on poltergeist and demonology. And I was wondering if either I could give you an address that people could write letters to, because we're looking for input, or if you'd prefer that I mailed it to you.
Well, if I were you, I would roll a tape on this program.
Okay. Well, I realize.
All right. Otherwise, I'll see what I can do.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. You might want to. You really might want to get a copy of this program, because these are some of the most serious stories that I've ever heard. And I don't know where you could go to get a better rendition of stuff that'll just put the hackles right down your back. This is pretty good this morning. Good morning. On our first-time caller line, you're on the air. Where are you, please?
I'm calling from Denver.
Welcome to the program.
Thank you. Art, I want to tell you that Ouija board, if you mess with that, It happened to me when I was 9 years old. It's an entrance for a satanic spirit to enter your body. And Dr. Ken Olson, who was on the Maury Povich show...
Maury Povich. Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir. Thank you. He was the person that released that terrible demonic spirit. And it happened to me when I was 9 through age 54, the worst type of satanic deprivation that could ever enter a human body. And I'm telling you, leave it alone. Don't allow anyone to touch or be around or play around with a Ouija board. Because if you don't have someone like Dr. Ken Olson, who is an exorcist, a vessel of Jesus Christ, he is an instrument of God, to pray to release that, it can cause the worst type of nightmares that you could ever have, and the worst type of life that you could ever have. And I want to tell you the truth, and your listeners, to never be around a Ouija board or allow any type of activity.
Well, I'm glad you gave everybody else the caution. I don't need it. Believe me, I've got that caution. Thank you for the call. That's Denver. And heed what that man says. Ouija boards are bizarre things that do seem to, hate to use the word door, open the door, but open a channel, open a conduit for things that you really don't want around you. Line 3, you're on the air. Good morning.
Okay, I'm calling from Reno.
Reno, oh, KOH, yes.
And this concerns the old mining camp of Virginia City, where the big mines, the big mines been abandoned for many years, but there are 700 miles of shafts and tunnels and drifts and winzes underground.
Yes, sir.
200 miles in a big labyrinth. And I was having lunch with my parents in Virginia City, and knocking at the back door, and came an old friend of my dad's, very agitated, a big lump in his forehead, and it was split, just cut, and blood was coming down, so folks patched him up, and he, like many of the old retired miners, he liked to roam through the abandoned mines, take samples out and stuff like that, and he was in the mine called the Ward Mine, southeast of Virginia City.
Is that W-A-R-D, Ward?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And I guess he had his carbide lamp in his hat. And he turned the corner and came down a corridor. There, kind of illuminated, was a man buried up almost to his head in cave-in dirt. His arms were free, and he was shaking them and waving his head back and forth. His face was contorted, and obviously a cave in there. Our friend was so startled that he turned around and started to run the timber over the roof of the mine, and he ran into it. That's where he got that knock in the head. Well, when he told the story around town, people just laughed and said, well, he must have bumped his head first and had a location.
Sure.
Several years later, some mining engineers were looking at the maps of the old mines, and they were examining the ward, and it has all the details. And said, my goodness, there was a fatal cave-in in the tunnel number so-and-so. And that was the one.
That is really eerie.
True.
That's really eerie. I understand, sir. I understand. I really thank you for the call.
Okay, Art.
And so there you go. There is a mining story. A man buried almost to his head, who had died violently and quickly and unexpectedly. The worrisome part, of course, of that is, if that is to be the manner of your death or mine, would we be forever trapped here on Earth in such a destined to repeat such a gruesome experience again and again, though it wasn't something that was from some deviant behavior that we had exhibited, but simply the unlucky moment of a mine caving in on us. Line 1, you're on the air.
Morning, Art. I thought I'd give you a call. Been listening to these programs. I'll give you an experience. A couple of years ago, coming in on 163, I was approaching Level Canyon turnoff. And you know where the old Christmas tree used to be?
Yes.
Okay, it was right after that fire. It was lightning, and we were joking around as we were driving, and I said, and defiantly, like, just show me that you're out there. And a couple times the lightning struck, and so finally again I said,
Just show me that you're out there, meaning God?
Well, the superior being, yeah.
Oh,
God, who knows?
Listen, would you hold through my break? It's a good place to break it anyway.
Okay.
All right. Show me you're out there. Prove it to me, huh?
A special replay of Coast to Coast AM with Art Bell. This program originally aired October 30th, 1993. Please do not call.
If you've got the guts, turn off the lights, turn your radio on, and join us. This is Coast to Coast AM. I'm Art Bell. Back now to line 1. You're back on the air again, sir.
Okay, thank you. Well, anyway, to make a long story short, we were just joking around, and again, like I said, it sort of was like a challenge, make me a believer. And about that time, literally 2 bolts of lightning came right across the front of the truck and hit the side of the road about, maybe 400 yards up from where we were traveling. And it was just like out of a Star War. I mean, it was 1 bolt from one side of the car and 1 from the other. And we pulled over and sat there for about 5 minutes and drove on up to Mountain Pass. And like I said...
Tell me something. Had you said this mentally crying out, or had you said it aloud? We
were talking about... And in the conversation, I said it out loud. I told him, I said, Bill, I said, just show me out there, God. If you're out there, make me a believer. And, a couple strikes around us. But then, well, that was close. Give me another sign. Make sure that you can hear me,
Well, I'm glad you didn't ask for absolute proof.
Well, tell you what, I've never asked for something again that I didn't want.
Oh, man, what a story. Now, how has this affected you, and how has it affected Bill?
Well, we talk about it occasionally, and like I said, we just look at each other and shake our heads. And like I said, to me, it's a thing in life now. I don't ask for anything that, in a joking manner anymore.
It's been said, be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, it might come true.
Thank you for the story. Take care. That's that was quite a story. That's a local story, too. That's a road I travel every day. And it's a dark road. And it's a dangerous road that I travel, Highway 160. I do about 120 miles a day on it. There have been a lot of people killed. There are a lot of crosses placed on the roadside to designate the place where it's occurred. But I've never seen anything. Not yet. Good morning. On the first-time caller line, you're on the air.
Hi, I'm calling from Genoa, Nevada.
Where in Nevada?
Genoa.
Genoa, Nevada.
Oh, Genoa.
Where is that?
It is just about 10 miles south of Carson City. It's the first Nevada settlement.
Very good.
And anyway, this was about 2 years ago, my story. I'm a recovering alcoholic, and I was going out with a girl who had just got into recovery, and we were in counseling, and we were doing a bunch of inner child work. And, one of the reasons we got along so well, our therapist says, because we played so well together. Well, this whole relationship went sour, and she began dating this other man, and they were going to move to Cleveland, Ohio. And anyway, so one night I'm laying in my bed, and this therapy work that we're doing with inner child, you have to close your eyes and imagine this child and you know what that child was doing at the time. And I was laying in my bed and my eyes were open, and all of a sudden this little girl, about 8 years old, she had a pixie haircut and she was wearing shorts and a small halter top, came up, and she was standing right next to my bed, and my eyes were wide open. And it was my girlfriend is like, you know, a smaller version of her, right? And this girl, without opening her lips or anything, said, you know, to me, I've come to play with Chris, who was like, and that's my name in my inner child. So anyway, this little girl is standing there, and she's talking to me. She says, and I'm leaving, I'm moving, and I wanted to come and play. And so she starts taking off with this other little kid. I'm assuming it was me, and they're running, and all of a sudden, then I don't see walls in my room or anything. I just see them out like in a field running.
Wow.
And I keep saying out loud to this girl who I was had since not dated, Gary, do you feel this? I was wondering if there was a connection between her and me.
Right.
And I kept saying, do you feel this? Are you here? Do you are you seeing what I'm seeing? And then after they got done playing this, and this went on for I'm going to guess 10 minutes. And then the little girl walked back up and said thank you, and that she was leaving. And that, you know, hopefully she would come back to see us again. And I had told her, I mean, I'm talking directly to this. She was transparent, but she was still standing right there. And I was telling her, I said, you can come back anytime you want. It was not a fear thing. I was not afraid.
Why not?
Well, because she was...
I guess because it was somebody you knew, somebody you know.
Right, I think so. And she was just... You know, 8 years old, 9 years old, and just real shy, and you know.
I would like to think I could react as you did. I'm going to have to leave the line because we're out of time. I thank you for the call. I would like to think that I would react that way. And maybe, if it was somebody that I had known, somebody that I was comfortable with, and the experience felt benign, maybe I would be. But I'm not sure of that. Line 2, you're on the air.
Hi, Art.
Hello.
Still in Las Vegas?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to relate an experience I had, but first I'd like to see if I can jog your memory. The last time I called in was, a year or so ago, and you had put out a question over the air, and I think it's somewhat apropos of tonight also. The question that you put out was, that night was, what do you think the purpose of life is?
That's right.
And my call to you was a story that was related to me, and I told you at the time I wasn't sure I believed or accepted it, is that this is where I want to see if I can jog your memory, that we were all gods and goddesses, and we had everything and could do everything, and so we decided to play a game, and the game was called life, and part of the rules of the game...
I remember.
Yeah, okay.
You're right. The question and tonight's topic go together very well. Go ahead now.
Some years ago, in the late 60s, I was living in Los Angeles, and I made a couple of acquaintances. They had a small business going. One was a writer, the other was a printer, an artist, and they had made up copies of a poster that they came up with. And in our dealings, they asked would I sell the poster for them. I agreed to, and for a while I sold it around the Los Angeles area to bookstores and so on. And then they suggested, why don't you make a trip to the Bay Area, to San Francisco, and see how it'll go up there. It was during the time of the Haight-Ashbury things, during the hippie days.
Oh, I remember the time.
And so I agreed to make the trip, and I went up there, and the evening that I arrived in San Francisco, before I decided to get a hotel room, I decided to eat in a restaurant, and then after that I went to a piano bar. I thought I'd kind of rest for a while and listen to some music, and a fellow sitting next to me at the piano bar and I got to talking, and I let him know that I was up from L.A., and he said, well, you don't have to get a hotel room. there's a house that I know of that isn't being occupied right now, and I've got the key, and you're welcome to use it. I went to the house, and it was on a street of the old Victorian homes that are so frequent in San Francisco. This was about the middle of the block, and it was the only one in the whole row of Victorian homes on that block that was set in from the others. I thought that was interesting. I went up the porch and unlocked the door and turned on a light and went inside.
Right.
But as I entered, I got a very uneasy feeling in my gut. And as I got further into the place, into the house, that feeling got stronger. And I just figured, oh, well.
Uneasy as in you shouldn't be there?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, listen, we're short on time, so.
Oh, I wanted to get the story out. Anyway, so I walked into the kitchen, and which was all the way in the back, and there were windows, multi-windows, and a window door, and I opened the door and was going to step out, and I paused, and I looked down, and there were no stairs, and it was about 10 feet straight down. I then proceeded into the living room, and I've got a much more uneasy feeling.
We're about to run out of time.
I went up the stairs slowly, and I got to the head of the stairs. There were 2 bedrooms. I could not enter either of the bedrooms. I just had to leave. It became unbearable to be there, even though my mind was saying, there's nothing wrong here, there's nothing wrong here. I just couldn't stay. It was extremely uncomfortable.
All right, we're going to have to hold it there. Thank you very much for the call, and good morning. Have you ever had that happen? Something inside of you so strongly compelling you to leave, telling you that something is urgently, terribly, profoundly wrong. Good morning. First-time caller line, you're on the air.
Good morning, Art Bell.
Yes, where are you calling from?
This is Pavo.
Pavo in Canada. Yes, you have something that relates to all this, Pavo?
Yes, I do.
That's amazing. All right, let's hear it.
Usually, people that enter into my domain receive an eerie feeling when they see all of the murals and...
I can only imagine what your area looks like, Pavo.
But there's one room in my house that is a shrine to you-know-who.
Hitler.
Yes. And when you walk in, the presence is so strong that the power, you feel the power.
Thank you, Pavo. That is Pavo, who is in Canada. He's up in the Edmonton area, I believe. And Pavo is a Nazi. And he really is a Nazi. And he was talking about what he does now. And his shrine, I don't have to be there to imagine what it is like. And I can easily imagine that it imparts the exact feeling that he was just talking about. Eerie. Wildcard line 3, you're on the air. Good morning.
Morning, Mr. Bell, calling from Albuquerque.
Albuquerque, yes, sir.
Just a real quick story, not quite as heavy as most of them, but I guess I was about 2 years old. My father told me about this. I had a favorite uncle, and I can't really remember his name right now because, again, I was 2 years old. But let's call him Uncle Joe. So I guess out of the clear blue sky one day, I wanted to go see Uncle Joe, and they said, no, it's too far away. It's about a 100-mile drive or something. This was back in the 50s, and I guess I had a fit, according to my father, and I just had to go see Uncle Joe, you know. So they decided that weekend to go see Uncle Joe, so we went up there and had a nice visit, and then a couple weeks later he died, you know. So then, you know, a short time later, say a couple months later, I wanted to go see another relative, and of course they didn't die, but my dad said they just about went crazy because they were afraid that something was going to go wrong with this relative.
In other words, they figured that you had some precognitive.
Yeah, they said after the first time they figured they were afraid to bring up anybody's name. So it's just a short little story.
Oh, I appreciate it.
Get off the air because you got a lot of good stories. I don't want to.
Yeah, there really have been some tremendous.
Excellent show.
Thank you. Yeah, I want to go see Uncle So-and-so. Quickly call and tell him to stay in bed today. I don't think it works like that, though. Do you? I think that things that are going to happen. Don't you? Or do you think that that with the help of somebody who's been around before, some things that might happen otherwise would not, or can be avoided, like the lady with the story about the brakes? Line 3, you're on the air. Hello, line 3. No, you're not. Wild card, line 3, you're on the air.
Art.
Yes.
I'm calling from Anchorage, Alaska.
Welcome to the program.
All right. I was wanting to tell you a little story here that happened to me about 3 years ago.
All right, go right ahead.
All right. I was staying with some friends, and my mom lives up here in Anchorage, or in King Salmon, and she was telling me that she had a bad dream or whatever about me getting in a wreck over the weekend. And I was like, well, just shrugged it off or whatever, didn't think about it. And sure enough, the weekend came around, and I got in a really serious motorcycle wreck.
Oh.
And was in the hospital for a long time and everything, and she was in the hospital, and she was like, she just couldn't believe that it actually happened or whatever. And she was sitting there trying to explain to me what really had went on that night, that she had the bad dream. And she said that someone had actually came to her that night while she was asleep or whatever, and woke her up. She didn't know who it was, no face or nothing, or any kind of, and told my mother that I was going to die at the end of the week.
Really?
And she told me I was just supposed to get in a wreck or whatever, just try to be careful. And she didn't tell me I was going to die. She just told me I was going to get in a wreck. And she was like, tell me what.
Why? If she would tell you that, I'm curious. If she would tell you, be careful or you're going to be in a wreck, and she would go to all that trouble to caution you about that, why wouldn't she give you the original message and try to warn you away or try to change what was to be?
I really don't know. I'm just assuming she didn't probably want to worry me or scare me or whatever, because she's had these, I'm not saying she's psychic or nothing, but she'd done the same thing to her real father. Her real father was really deadly sick down in Florida, and no one knew anything about her. So she called down and talked to one of her sisters to go tell him to check on him. And sure enough, he went there. They went to check him out and everything, and he was. They found him on the floor, and he was not in the greatest health or whatever. And it's just been a couple of weird coincidences, or just something she's definitely got some sort of weird power, not power, but just some sort of gift, I guess, or something.
I take it any similar caution given now, you would really...
Most definitely, yeah.
All right, thank you very much for the call.
All right.
You take care from the state of Alaska. Line 1, you're on the air.
Oh, it's me?
It's you.
Oh, hi. My name's Don. I'm a first-time caller.
Hi, Don.
And I'm coming from Vegas. I used to live out there in Pahrump, and I have two quick stories, and both of them happened while I was living out there.
All right, go right ahead. It is a strange place.
Yeah. Well, one of them, the first one is I was dating this girl in St. George, and I happened to be there late for one weekend, and I had to be back in Pahrump for work the next morning. But I was there too late, so I stayed the night at her house in their guest bedroom. And I had already gone to sleep. The doors were shut and the lights were off and everything.
Right.
And for some reason, I woke up and I looked towards the door, and I could see, 3, 4, 5 people looking in at me. So I rubbed my eyes because I thought, I was seeing something. And after I rubbed my eyes, I saw someone standing next to me in the bed. And you know how you can see, even though it's dark, you can still kind of see him.
Yes.
He had, I could tell he was blonde. And I was about to say something to him, ask him what he's doing, because it didn't appear to me that he might be a spirit.
Yes.
And just before I started to talk, he proceeded to fall on top of me, and I jumped back, and...
So you felt the physical presence?
No, I didn't feel it. I jumped back because I thought someone was going to fall on top of me, and as soon as he was about to fall on top of me, he disappeared.
And that was in Pahrump?
No, that was in St. George.
All right, and now you've got a story about Pahrump.
Yeah, I used to play football out there in Pahrump. I graduated in '82. I think I was a junior at the time.
All right, listen. Hold on. I'm going to put you on hold. I'm going to do a newscast, and I'm going to come right back to you.
Okay.
All right, stay right there. And he's got a story about my hometown, Little Pahrump, Nevada, which I'm sure in large numbers is listening this morning. So all of you out in Pahrump, get ready, because here comes a story that comes from right there in town. It is a very odd place, and in Pahrump, Nevada, which is Nye County, there are brothels, for it is a legal business there. And in one of those brothels, there has for years and years and years been a ghost named Harold. We'll be back.